Good evening, everyone. If staff will let us know when we're Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin with our land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki and the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. Next, we will have a moment of silent contemplation. Next, I would be looking for the approval of or amendments to the agenda. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Musa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, I would be looking for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of council for policy and in camera held January 21st, 2025, and the regular meeting of council held January 29th, 2005. Moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Perry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, we will go to correspondence for information. Are there any items under correspondence for information that anyone wishes to bring forward? Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Item 66, email from a resident of East Uniacke Road regarding concern with the condition of the East Uniacke Road and negative impact of adding new homes without improved infrastructure.
Councillor, I'm being told we can't hear you. So I don't know if
Okay.
your mic's not
I
working.
just read the item
That's
on 66, so I didn't. Okay, it's about an email from a resident on East Uniacke about approving development on that road without improvement to the road itself. And I would like to say that this email have a lot of merits in it because that road, I know part of it from where they stopped by Power Road to Lake Crest is up to be done this year. But the worst part of the road is between Lake Crest and the new subdivision of Cottage Country, and that's where we have the development agreement that's coming. It's coming to council, and if nothing been done about that road, I think council should consider talking to the province. If they want more development on that road, they should do something because the road itself is, I drive it almost every day, and now you see the ice is building inside. Like you see, like the shoulder of the road is gone, and the ice, like when they plow it, like the ice is staying on the road itself. Like, so it's building up inside the roads. I think that road should be looking at, and I know we sent a lot of letters, but there's a lot of concern. I hear a lot of concern from residents about it, and if we want to approve some more development, we should be at least looking at that road condition. Thank you.
Thank you. So are you making a motion to send a letter to the province to,
I see somebody's gonna talk to, like,
okay.
is it about?
Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I just wanted to add to what Councillor Musa had said. Just on a personal note, I have a relative who just moved there in the fall, and they just expressed to me that they couldn't believe the condition of the road. and also how then it suddenly improves, just as you were talking about, once you get onto this other road. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm hearing that from a resident as well, all the way where I am. So if you're making that motion, Counselor Musa, I'll second that.
Now, there's no motion on the floor at this time. Counselor Mitchell.
Item number 29, letter from the FCM advising that the Walton Lighthouse relocation project do not meet the approval thresholds for funding. What thresholds are they alluding to? Any idea?
Adam, I'll let you take this.
Yes, through you, Madam Warden. I think what we're starting to see in general with some of these applications around climate is additional work done on the front end. And I think as part of your 25 business plan, 26 operating business plan, we're looking at a climate action plan update, and that will help feed into these grant applications. So for example, they were looking for more data around the need behind the move, some more community engagement piece around the need for the move. So specifically with that one, it was a project we had on the books that we tried to align with the application process, and we just weren't successful. But we are hearing consistent feedback through various grant programs around the need for council to update the climate action plan, which we're happy to see it's in your plan for next year to start that process, which should help us with future grant programs. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Counselor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I would like to move that staff start a discussion with Public Work about the condition of the East Uniacke Road and the pressure that we have from development on that road, and to be able to continue like the development that we're having. Is that good for you?
Seconded.
That good for you, Jesse?
Jesse?
Through you, Madam Warden, for clarification, would that also include an official letter to complement requests for an official discussion?
You
As
have, you have
that-
blanket check, whatever you need to send, whatever do the job for you, it's good.
So staff, ideally, if there was an amendment that included an official letter to go with the request to meet, staff feel that that can be very effective, as that would be a continuation of a letter that was sent last year where it was successful in getting half the job done, and now we need to get the rest of the job done on East Uniacke Road. So that's just comments from staff.
Like if you could get some like how from something from John about how many building permit we're getting from that subdivision or something, that will help probably. And I know we probably might, you want to talk about. Thank you.
Counselor Perry.
So I'll move an amendment that an official letter be sent with the request for a meeting with Public Works. Included in that letter, the scheduled and already approved development, as well as future developments that are under application for a possibility to show the need of the upgrading of that road. Also highlighting the large truck traffic that comes from the quarry and the asphalt plant that are located in East Uniacke and Beaverbank, and that's the through for them as well. So I'll move that amendment.
Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Any comments or questions on the amendment? Then we'll go to the vote on the amendment. And Walter. And the motion is passed unanimously. The question on the amendment excuse me, the amended motion. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay. Counselor Rhino.
Yes, thank you, Madam Warden. Item 63, I find it interesting that the province is getting letters and emails and so on about out of control, the experience with fracking and shale gas. I just want to be on the record that I have had several people come up to me with questions regarding that, and I think you and I both got an email with regard to that from a resident in my area. So at some point, I think this council is going to have to sit down and have a discussion surrounding this.
If I could, I did attend a virtual meeting of NSFM for mayors, wardens, and CAOs today when the letter of request was discussed along with some other issues coming forth right now. I was prepared to bring forward a motion around that in my warden's report. If council would prefer, I could probably. Yeah, it is okay. It's been added for decision, so we could possibly address it at that time.
Sure, thank you.
Counselor Perry.
I was going to be speaking in support of what Councillor Rhino was talking about, so I will wait till we get to the decision stage to make my comments. Thank you.
Any further items on correspondence for information that anyone wishes to bring forward? Seeing none, we'll move to correspondence for decision. Okay, item 86 is an email from the East Hants Multi-Use Trails Association regarding a proposal from the Drift Climbers Snowmobile Club. Alana, are you taking that one?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Warden. Oops. Through you, Madam Warden. The East Hants Multi-Use Trails Association has reached out again. We had provided a letter of support in November 2024 that outlined support of getting the Drift Climbers Snowmobile Club a transfer of funds from a project they had been awarded to be used on the trail, subject to appropriate agreements being in place. And I believe from conversations with group members through staff, as well as some provincial representatives, that the letter needs to indicate more so that the East Hants Multi-Use Trail Association and the Drift Climbers would collaborate and work together, because I think the initial letter indicated more so that East Hants Multi-Use Trail Association would use those funds. And I think the revision to the letter indicates that, you know, the groups would collaborate on that, and should council support that and then the funds be reallocated to put towards that, we would look then towards establishing a short duration agreement similar to what we've done in the past. And that's sort of the Coles Notes version.
Okay. Counselor Perry.
I think any opportunity for a nonprofit organization to access funding to improve a trail that doesn't come out of the taxpayers is a good thing. So I'm going to move that council send a letter identifying that the Drift Climbers and the East Hants Multi-Use Trail Association are working together, joined on this project in support of the reallocation of these funds.
Subject to the.
Subject to the
terms.
approval of the Wagner, I don't know if it's Wagner Trust or OHV.
Moved by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Next item, item 85, a letter from Naveed Sabari regarding GFR steel manufacturers in the Uniac Business Park. Adam, or CAO, who's? Go ahead.
This is a recent letter added to your agenda today, and I think if council does want to have an, I'll do a quick overview, but if council wants to go in to discussion, I would suggest that council move in camera. As you recall, you had United Golf or GNF present to council previously on the subject. This is one of the buyback properties. Council has provided staff clear direction on how you would like to proceed. You'll note in the second last paragraph of the letter, they do have signed the documents and it's in their legal's hands, and they're not trying to slow down this buyback process. However, they have brought forward an additional option for council to consider. That's the front half of the letter. It's a different project than what council would have previously heard, and I'll just leave it at that for council's consideration.
Councillor Musa.
I would like to move to in camera to discuss contractual issue.
Do we have a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried, so we will give staff time to I would report that we met in camera to discuss a contractual and legal issue. Staff were given direction in camera related to that. We will now move back to correspondence for decision. Item 82, the EMO Planning Committee requests that council send a letter to Minister Maslin regarding concerns with poor cell phone coverage and the risks in an emergency situation. A sample letter is attached for consideration. Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Warden. Your EMO committee, which is made up of staff and agency partners, at their last meeting discussed the challenges with the cell service in our communities and the need, the most important need during an emergency. And I think there were some examples recently when emergency alerts went out and people in poor cell areas didn't actually get them until they left their house. So the committee had suggested that council write a letter to Minister Maslin. At the time, the minister wasn't named, so we were holding off on this letter coming forward until the minister has been named, which is in front of you today for your consideration. And the EMO committee would appreciate council considering sending this draft letter.
Councillor Perry.
Speaking in full support of this letter, speaking to our emergency services, they find this a huge barrier throughout their area of responsibility for the fire service in Mount Uniacke and Lakelands and Rawdon. It's something that just needs to be addressed, similar to the way the province addressed the internet. And I do know in talking to a resident who works for one of the major telecommunication companies that they have put in relays or boosters for signals in certain areas, but they haven't activated them. They activate them if a resident or an employee is working from home in that area to boost their cell signal for conferencing, but they have the ability to do it. It's just, I think they're waiting for more government money, like they did for the infrastructure for internet. They, rather than run the lines, they're waiting for somebody else to pay it. So I really think we should send this letter. So I'm going to move that council send this letter to Minister Maslin asking for a solution, or what's the title of this? Sorry, I don't have the title. I'm trying to figure out what the title was for the motion here, sorry. Yeah, to address poor cell phone coverage and the risk in an emergency situation.
We have seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Moving on, we have a letter from the Chignecto Central Science Fair Committee looking for funding for the March 2025 Science Fair held in Pictou. Council could decide to use the general government grant funding, but given it isn't in our area and we do not know how many local schools or students participate, we would be able to support any East Hants residents who qualified for nationals, the same as the athletes who travel, or any other support is decided by council. We could have the letter brought up. Okay, Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reading this, I was wondering, the science fair, to my knowledge, has been going on for years, and I was wondering, in the past, do we have some precedence on support? No. And so, am I correct in the kind of the thrust of this piece? One of the things up for discussion is we're not quite sure within East Hants what we're dealing with yet. So how many students could be in a position to advance to nationals? I believe it is. Okay. So I'm not sure about the timing implications. I just want to say I'm very supportive, personally of this, but Is it possible to kind of a wait and see approach? So just kind of see what we're dealing with, and then we be perhaps in a better position to make a decision.
We could simply notify them that we have a grant structure that would permit us to support students within East Hants should the need arise. It's completely up to council what you wish to.
I could try to make a motion around those lines. So I move that we draft a letter to the Chignecto School Board,
No, to the science fair.
to the Science Fair group, and notify them that we have a grant structure in place that could be supportive of students from East Hants, should there be qualified candidates.
Okay. Seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, moving along, the next item is the notice of the RCMP H Division Headquarters Tour on March 28th, 2025. We need to provide a head count for planning purposes, so we would please advise if you are planning to attend for the RSVP if you have not already confirmed. Councillor Dixon.
Yes, through the warden, I can arrange with Community Rider to get a bus to take 8 people in at no expense if we want, so wish to avoid traveling and having different vehicles there. We do.
So I guess I would ask if any counselor who has not already let staff know that they're attending has been able to reach a decision. Counselor Rhino. Okay. Or, oh, Counselor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I haven't responded because I wasn't sure if I was able to go. But there's a possibility that I can. Like if I can confirm that within a short time. Okay, so put me down as confirmed. Thank you.
Okay, and looking at my calendar, it looks like I could be available that day as well. Anyone else wish to sign up? Counselor Musa.
Can you elaborate what time it is, like from what time to what time?
The last time we went, it was in the morning and stretched. We had lunch and came back along in the afternoon. It was an all-day type thing.
I cannot do a Friday, thank you. I cannot do a Friday.
Can't remember the exact time that we got home, but yeah, mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock-ish, we got done. Counselor Merriam.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure whether we're all chiming in. I believe I did RSVP already, but I am planning on attending as well. Thank you.
Deputy Warden.
Well, I think the same as Councilor Merriam. I think I did send that, but confirm it, but it's not in my calendar. So I do plan to go, though.
Okay. And Counselor Mitchell.
I think the staff has my RSVP. I can't attend. I'll be away.
Okay, so staff got everyone down? Okay. How many are we at now? Okay. Counselor Perry.
I won't need the community rider. It's located directly next to my child's daycare, so I will meet everybody there.
Well, I think we can sort the logistics of transportation out amongst ourselves later, so. All right, so moving along. Oh, I didn't see anything from Walter on that, so. The next item, council is asked to consider appointing their delegates for the 2025 NSFM Spring Conference and the FCM Annual Conference. Full details are not yet available, but having delegates selected will aid in bookings when information is released. Who's in charge of this one?
The Nova Scotia Federation Municipality Spring Conference is April 30th to May 2nd in Truro, and the Federation of Municipalities is in Ottawa, May 29th to June 1st.
I would comment that I probably won't require a hotel for the Truro conference. I traveled to Truro for work many days. All right, Deputy Warden.
Oh, thank you, Warden. Yes, I'd certainly go to both of them, as far as that goes, and the one in Truro, yes, I'd travel back and forth.
Okay. Councillor Perry.
I'm unable to make the dates for April 30th to May 2nd, but I would be able to make the ones from May 29th to June 1st in Ottawa. However, based on the council background, we've always said the 3 delegates that we would send are normally the first-time councillors or the newest councillors have priority. So unless if any of them choose they would like to attend, I would graciously back out to provide the spots to them. If there's no interest, then I would put my name in for FCM.
As per council policy, those folks who have not gone before or who have not gone to the previous conference have first kick at the can. Councillor Merriam.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring for, I'd be fine with either of the conferences, just, balancing work-life kind of thing. I don't think I'd be up for going to both, but I thought I'd put it that way because that way, if other people really would love to go to Ottawa, well, I'd be fine with going to Truro, and in some ways that would be easier. So, sure, I'd like to go, but I can go to, both dates work, but it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Yeah, being you're a first-time attendee, the choice is yours as to which conference you would like to put your name forward.
Well, I will ask. I'm not quite sure of, content-wise. I'm assuming it would be fairly similar at, no. Yeah, okay. Well, hearing support for the Ottawa, then I'll throw my hat in the ring for that, please. Thank you.
Anyone else? So Councillor Tingley has indicated that he would attend both if there were openings as well, so. So last year, of course, the CAO and myself, and then Councillor Mitchell, Deputy Warden McPhee, and Councillor Tingley went. So this year would be the CAO, myself, Councillor Merriam, and 2 other councillors. And we have interest expressed from Councillor Perry, the Deputy Warden, and Councillor Tingley. So we have 3 expressions of interest for the remaining 2 spots, unless anyone else who did not attend last year or who has not attended would be interested in attending. This is for FCM. Oh, I'm sorry, that's NSFM, sorry, for NSFM. So Councillor Merriam is not attending NSFM. So we have interest expressed by Deputy Warden McPhee, Councillor Tingley, and that's it, correct? For NSFM? Any further interest in the NSFM Spring Conference? Okay, we'll leave that one with the knowledge that there is still an opening there if anyone finds themselves within the very near future available to attend. So now we'll go to FCM. And we did send, last year, there was a CAO, myself, and then Deputy Warden McPhee, Counselor Tingley, Counselor Mitchell, and Counselor Eisner, and Counselor Moosen attended. You withdrew.
I did withdraw.
Yes. And Counselor Garden Cole withdrew. So last year, Counselor Tingley, Counselor Mitchell, Counselor Eisner, and Counselor Musa attended. We did send the extra person last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So this year, we have a CAO, myself, and Counselor Merriam. So we have 2 spots there available to be filled. So I would just ask if any counselor who did not attend last year has any interest in attending this year. Okay. So we have Deputy Warden McPhee.
Yes, I'd be interested in the FCM.
Okay. Counselor Perry has indicated that he would be interested, and Counselor Tingley has indicated that he would be interested. So we have 1 spot left. Pardon?
He went last year.
Yes, Counselor Tingley went last year, so that would mean that Counselor Perry would be eligible to go this year, if we're sticking with the 3. And that, I think, after some discussion last year, I think we thought that we should perhaps stick with our policy. Counselor Dixon.
Yes, through the warden, can you get day passes? I'm in Ontario to a challenge that week. Can you get day passes to attend these at the
Don't
gate?
think so. I think you have to register for the whole conference.
Okay, no, thank you.
That's my understanding.
You could do the registration without the travel. It would be
Yeah, we could register you for the conference and not cover the travel or accommodation if you wanted to.
Okay, well, I'll get back to you on that, because I just want to check on to make sure on this challenge.
But still, right now, we're at, yeah,
If I was to be
He is.
registered, then I would not be deleting anybody. It'd be
yes,
just,
you would.
okay, no, I'd rather hold back till I know for sure.
Because you wouldn't be probably able to attend the whole conference.
It would just be a day off and drop in, that's all I
Yeah.
can do.
So we have for FCM currently, the CAO, myself, Deputy Warden McPhee, Counselor Merriam, and Counselor Perry. I'm just going to add here, we did not come to any conclusion about it. I'll just remind council, we had some discussion last year about the benefit of sending directors occasionally, giving the directors a shot at going to FCM, because sometimes, there could be benefit in staff such as our directors having the opportunity to network with staff from other municipalities and to, even tour their water treatment plants and the infrastructure that's available to be seen. I don't know if that's something that council's interested in doing, or if we want to leave it for discussion at a later date for a future conference. But I just wanted to remind council we had not made any decision on that. Counselor Perry.
Madam Warden, you bring up a good point, and we have talked about this, I believe, more than once, about allowing a director to go. And I do think it's important. We're a growing municipality, we're facing changes, and as a council, we're putting lots of pressure and lots of responsibility on our staff to come up with answers to problems and finding solutions. And I believe it's just as important for them to have the networking to be able to see what's happened in other parts of the country, of municipalities and organizations of similar size, how they came to these solutions, and bring some of that back home. As much as we counselors can bring stuff back, I do think having the ability for a director to get that same experience is just as valuable to the residents of East Hants as it is for a counselor. So for that reason, if there is a director that is available to go, I would be willing to give up my spot. as long as it was replaced by a director, for them to go to FCM, to keep the numbers funded the same. And I believe we would still have great value in the CAO, a director, 2 counselors, and the deputy warden and Counselor Merriam being there. And the warden, yes, of course, the warden.
So, anyway, what is your wish, council? That is a departure from our procedure. We would need a motion for that. We don't know if a director would be interested. Counselor Rhino.
Well, I like Councillor Perry's gallantry over there. It's commendable. But, you know, this conference is for councillors from across the country, and our taxpayers are putting in that. So I would feel that my taxpayers would want councillors to attend, not another director. Thank you.
All right, so if we've heard Counselor Perry's suggestion, we've heard Counselor Rhino's. If we wish to make any change, someone has to make a motion that be considered if there is a director interested in going. If not, we'll keep the status quo. Counselor Perry.
I will move that if there is a director available to attend the SCM conference, they can take the slot number 3 as allocated for counselors for FCM 2025. I so move.
Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Discussion on the motion. Counselor Musa.
I like Councillor Perry's idea, but we have another councillor that wanted to go, and I don't think it's fair for Councillor Tingley that he lost his spot, and that's why I would not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
The issue being that for many years, you did not get to attend FCM 2 years in a row when counselors were more able to go. So that's, you know, but that is fine. Any further discussion on the motion? Counselor Mitchell.
Yes, through you, is this just a one-off for 2025, or this will be ongoing?
Well, this would be, it was stated for this year. I would assume that should it pass and happen this year, we would review it in the future. But Counselor Perry, your intent?
My intent of the motion is that it would be for this year, and then depending upon the value received and perceived from it coming back from the conference, we would then discuss changing policy afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? You ready for the question? We'll go to the vote.
Against.
Okay, so the motion has failed by a vote of 7-4, with Counselor Dixon, the Deputy Warden, Counselor Merriam, Counselor Hebb, Counselor Musa, and Counselor Rhino voting nay. Okay, returning to we do have our delegates, so Counselor Musa?
I would like to move that if there is a director ready to go to the FCM, to send them and fund it from the FCM reserves for the 2024, 2025, 2026, and to see if there's any benefit for the municipality from that conference for directors. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? The motion is to take, there are money in FCM reserves. The motion is that for this upcoming FCM, that if a director is available, and I assume that would depend on the program and their availability to attend, that we take money from FCM reserves and send a director this year as an offer, and then review whether or not there was
Do it every
value
year.
after this conference.
I'll second it.
Seconded by the deputy warden. Discussion on the motion. Counselor Mitchell.
Through you, is there interest from the directors to attend, is my feeling.
I suspect they haven't had time to really consider it
It's
yet.
7 days.
If there were no directors interested or able to attend, the money simply would not be spent. Counselor Rhino.
Just a question. Is there any information on how many other municipalities direct staff directors to attend FCM? Is there any information on that?
CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden, I don't have any statistics on it. I do know that when I'm at the FCM, there are other staff from municipalities across the country there, and not only CAOs, there are often directors of operation, administration, deputy CAOs, that type of thing, so.
But we have no information of other Nova Scotia, factual information of any other directors that'll go in Nova Scotia. And we don't even have a report in here. We're gonna start sending directors, and on taxpayers' dime. I don't care if it comes from reserve. The money came from taxpayers. That's how it got there. So I can't support this either.
Counselor Perry.
I can't give statistics, but I can tell you that when I attended the conference in Regina and I went on the renewable energy, I believe the warden was with us as well when we went out to the renewable energy farm that they were doing. There was 3 or 4 staff members from other municipalities that were not the CAOs. And also when I did my tour of the water treatment facility in Toronto, there was 3 or 4 people on that bus with their mayors and CAOs specifically to look at those things. So I wish there was better statistics to back this up, but I think it's kind of been through my experience of going to FCM, when the agenda's there and the tours are listed, it seems some municipalities take the opportunity to take advantage of what's there to gain experience. So I understand where Councillor Rhino's talking about the taxpayer's dollar, and that's why I'm a big supporter, and we send 3 people and people get the opportunity. The people shouldn't be going every year to this conference because it doesn't change a lot from year to year. As far as the only thing that changes is the city, but some of the overall impact you get from the conference, where we have the warden and the CAO there, they can give us the information about the change, but it's about having everybody have the opportunity to do that networking, have that and understand the commerce behind being a municipal councillor across this country. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Question's been called. No, that was the last one. That's what he took. Okay, so the motion has passed by a vote of 8-3 with Councillor Tingley, Councillor Hebb, and Councillor Rhino voting nay. Okay, now we'll return to our agenda.
We need this motion.
Oh, okay, we need the recommended motion made with the names filled in.
Do you want to fill in the names?
Yes.
So the motion would read that we move the council appoint the following delegations: the 2025 NSFM Spring Conference, the CAO, the warden, Councillor Carol McPhee and Councillor Walter Tingley, and the 2025 FCM Annual Conference, the CAO, Warden Eleanor Rolston, Deputy Warden Carol McPhee, Councillor Perry, and Counselor Merriam.
Someone prepared to move that motion? Counselor,
Mitchell?
okay, Counselor Mitchell? Oh, sorry, I had Kim on to speak.
Me? No.
Okay. All right, moved by Counselor Mitchell, seconded by Counselor Dixon. All those in favor? Well, we have to vote, I think. Sorry.
It's 4.
Well, we still need someone to vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Counselor Mitchell?
Just to follow up, the spring conference, there's still one vacancy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next, correspondence from Minister Lohr regarding council to signaling your support for greater resource development within our province by letter or press release. It was a letter sent to mayors and wardens, which has been circulated. If council would allow me, I'll pass the chair to the deputy warden and give a brief report on the meeting with NSFM held earlier. There were a number of issues brought forward by NSFM, one being this letter. They have been in correspondence or in contact with the province over this. The general consensus held by NSFM and all units who attended the meeting today was that this request was not a reasonable request to make of municipalities at this time. While we certainly understand that the province wants to improve Nova Scotia's economic advantages, this is not an issue that falls under municipal jurisdiction. We do not have any yay or nay against doing any of this. And to ask for a blanket endorsement of this when we don't have any details over where, what, when, or how much is just not something that everyone on the call today, no one felt that they were able to do. And as far as I'm aware, no municipalities to date have answered this letter or provided any press conference or letter for those reasons that I have mentioned. Also, at that meeting today, there is legislation, I don't know, that is now going before the House that I don't know if council is aware of or not. And I will get to you, Councillor Rhino, once I finish going over this. I just asked the CAO if she would give the high points on that other legislation, and then I do have a motion that will be coming forward. Oh, I'll get to you. Sorry, I forget I'm not still in the chair.
Oh, I had it on. There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Warden. So, Bill number 24 was introduced in the House on February 20th, and it has some concerning elements to it with respect to the powers that the province will be granted to influence municipal budgets and municipal spending. The act itself is, there's a couple of amendments. One is the Temporary Access to Land Act, which isn't really the major concern for municipalities. The act that they're amending through this bill is the Joint Regional Transportation Agency Act, so the JRTA that you've heard about. We haven't seen the regional plan yet for the JRTA, but they've decided that agency will be renamed Link Nova Scotia, and the minister will have the ability to identify other areas around the province that would be regional transportation areas. So right now, we are within the JRTA's area, which is the 1 hour outside of Halifax, that radius. So one of the things that this act does is it gives the new Link Nova Scotia the ability to own assets and take on projects as an agency, which they didn't have before. Their mandate before was just to do the plan. Now it's actually giving them authority to do the work, some of it, which is fine. The one thing about this, it gives the minister order-making powers over municipalities. And those order-making powers are essentially the minister will be able to order municipalities to remove, construct, alter any transportation infrastructure within municipal boundaries. And if you are ordered to do such a thing, then you don't do it, they will come in and do it for you, and they will bill you the cost of the project. So one of the examples that seem to be sort of out as an example are bike lanes. So if council went in and spent $2 million to put in bike lanes, and the Minister of Transportation needed that space in the roadway to do something else related to the regional transportation plan, they could come in and order you to take those bike lanes out. If you didn't, they could then take the bike lanes out and charge you to do that, incurring a debt from the municipality to the Crown. So that has all kinds of repercussions for municipalities, as you can imagine. Your long-term planning would be impacted, your ability to fund local priorities that might not be the same as the regional transportation plan, really taking your debt ratios out of your control. So you would no longer, if you had to pay the province back $5 million for something that they came in and did, then you would have to have that as a debt, obviously, in your debt ratio, and that would impact your borrowing for years to come. The Act also enables the minister to order municipalities to do anything required by this Act and to do anything necessary or desirable in the interest of safe, efficient transportation of people or goods. So it's very broad. The powers that would be given to this, to the minister are very broad. There's also reference in the Act that says that municipal bylaws and plans have to be in line with the regional transportation plan, which isn't out of the ordinary. I mean, the MGA says that we have to align our bylaws with provincial statements of interest. We're kind of used to that. The difference here is we don't even know what this plan says yet, and there's no consultation on what the final plan is going to be. And then the other piece to this would be that normally the province would have to give municipalities a year notice under the Municipal Government Act to provide if they're going to incur costs or change your revenue streams. And in this case, the Act has actually outlined that that notice would not be required, notwithstanding the section in the Municipal Government Act that requires it. So, looking at the Act as a whole and how it relates back to municipal governments, there is some risk here, and I think you want NSFM out in front of it, sort of outlining that, and not necessarily directly related to the transportation piece, it's the bigger piece that this Act brings into play, that they're making powers for ministers over municipalities that are really unreasonable and take that control and your autonomy away. And that's not okay. That's not okay at any level for any type of legislation that they put in place. So I think to the call this afternoon, the NSFM was looking for sort of all municipalities to be on the same page with the key concepts that we need to be at the table when they're making these decisions and when they're making legislation that affects municipalities. Municipalities need to be at the table. Consultation is not a meeting half an hour before the legislation drops on the floor of the House. And that municipalities represent 100% of the residents of this province, and you need to be the ones who are in control of your local priorities. So I'm not sure exactly what those are sort of the key messages. Outside of the transportation piece, it's really the powers that they're exerting over municipalities that we need to take exception with. And we need to stand up with the NSFM and all municipalities across Nova Scotia to make sure that happens.
Now, if I could, NSFM are very desirous that they would have some type of a letter in support from all municipalities that they could show that, yes, we really do, a letter, email, whatever. So after the meeting, which this meeting was at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it got over at 5:30. So the CAO did draft a motion that because we don't want to go to war with the province. There is no benefit for anyone to do that, but we want to empower the NSFM to continue to engage them on this whole thing. So I do have a motion coming forward that I'll make. I don't know if you want me to make it now. I see there are people left to speak, or what? Mr. Chair, what's your wish?
Well, you could make the motion now
Okay.
and then.
So I move that it be resolved that the municipality of East Hants supports the work of the NSFM in advocating for Nova Scotia municipalities to be at the table with provincial legislative and policy makers when legislation that affects municipalities is being contemplated, and that the warden has autonomy to sign a letter expressing support of the NSFN in representing the needs of municipalities that support municipal autonomy, strong decision-making, and municipal engagement.
Okay, we have motion and seconder, Councillor Merriam, and for the motion to speak, Councillor Rono.
Thank you, Mr.
Nope.
Gordon.
There we go.
I guess I was on before the motion, but it's all part and parcel. First around, what we talked about was the resource issue with regard to the letter that Mr. Lohr wants support on. I cannot support that. East Hants, and especially my new parts of District 5 and the new parts of District 11, were the last time fracking took place, there was very contentious issues and meetings and so on, and people were very upset about that. And, you know, we don't even know what the technology, if there's any change in technology to extract these gases, minerals, or whatever. So how could we ever support anything if we don't even know what the outcome is? To me, it's you prove to me that it's not going to infiltrate the groundwater and the wells and contaminate the land. Maybe I'll listen to it, but they haven't done that. They haven't done that. They just want to open her up, and without those assurances, how can anybody support this letter? That's the way I see it on that. And with regard to, and I really appreciate the CAO weighing in on these other issues and bringing this forward with regard. Honestly, I'll be true. Honestly, this sounds very similar to what's going south of our border. You know, the Nova Scotia provincial government can wipe us out, all municipalities, with a stroke of a pen. But we've usually had a good relationship with them. At times it was a little rough, but we usually worked it out somehow down the road. This seems to be dangling over our head. You do this, or here's our powers, and if you don't agree with, you know, they haven't said it, but they can write us out of existence. And I don't think that's not fair. We were elected by the people in the municipality to elect them and speak on their best interests. There's no party politics here, so we are the best people to represent those people. And a lot of those people, like I've said before, have come to me and wanted information and what's the stance on the municipality on fracking, and what's the stance on taking other minerals out. They're scared. A lot of them are scared of what may come because they don't know how they're going to do it. And I think it's very, very unfair of this government to it almost, I'll stay away from the word right now, but it's kind of heavy-handed, let me say that, very heavy-handed. And I fully support this letter and support the NSFM in trying to bring us to the table when decisions that will affect each and every one of our residents and ourselves, you know, out there. Like the Premier says he's open to listen. Well, I really hope he is open to listen, because I really think he needs to get down to the grassroots and hear what's going on at our level and make his decisions somewhere around that. Those are right now. Those are my comments, and I just shake my head what's going on in the world today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rhino. And next to speak is Councillor Perry. He was on before the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. In support of the letter being sent out, but my concern, very similar to Councillor Rhino's, is this blanket about open resources. You heard me say it hundreds or thousands of times in this chamber, right? The problem with resource development in my community that is becoming, that's a nuisance, which is a quarry directly in the center, right? And it's been all outlined, they've been in violation, and, you know, it's one of those things my community members just worry that something like this is just gonna give them carte blanche to expand, and, you know, we're talking about growing industry, growing homes, building communities. Well, that resource development is stopping all of that. So it's you know, it's something that I think needs to be looked at, needs to be communicated. And if we look at something like this that comes out of not nowhere, but comes out of somewhere, and, you know, this has the lower level of minister written all over it. This comes from staff. Everything is coming from staff to the minister down to us. And I really think that this is not something that was given to us or presented to us in good faith. And if we've seen anything, a lot of the stuff that has hit the table recently of the legislature, once the people in the voting seats get a good view of it, they've repealed a lot of it. They've done it for the Attorney General and a lot of things like this. So not the Attorney General, the Auditor General. So, I mean, I think this is just something where we need to also contact our local MLAs on this, because there are a lot of MLAs that sit in that chamber that were former municipal councillors and sat in seats similar to this one all across the province. And they understand the value of municipalities. And I think we need to empower them to use their voice in their field of work to make this known. So as well as sending that off, you know, to that, I think we all need to here contact our local MLAs and let them know our thoughts as well, because I think that's really something that's going to need to be done, because some of these things, this blanket transportation, this JTA, like, it stopped a lot of things that people worked on for a long time in a lot of municipalities, and we're supposed to get a report, and the committee broke without getting a report. We were supposed to get all these things, and we never got any of it. But yet, if we need to do anything for them, our T's got to be crossed, our I's got to be dotted. And in a reciprocal relationship, you have to be fair both ways. And I don't think anybody's doing anything unfairly on purpose from the ministerial level. So I think we just need to get talking to our people to, you know, let them know we do represent the people. We are partyless. And if they hear that the people are not in favor of some of these things, you know, it's our job to be their voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. And next to speak is Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. In full support of the letter going forward. I'm reading at the letter before us, and I'm concerned with the little part that says resource development within our province. I know the province is now deciding on what can be done for the betterment of the province. My question deals with private landowners. If I'm a landowner and I have a resource on my property, from what I understand, the province could come in and develop that because it's for the betterment of the province. And the last statement is dealing with greater resource development in the province. So they're making a decision that even though I own the land and I'm a landowner, they can come in and develop it because it's good for the province, without any consultation whatsoever with the landowner. So those are my comments. I'm supporting the letter wholeheartedly and waiting to hear back from the Honourable Minister John Orr. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell, and now the Warden.
just for some clarification, there would not be a direct response to Minister Lohr's letter. Simply, municipalities would not send a letter or a press release supporting this. That would be the intent. That was the consensus that I got from the meeting today, that no one felt comfortable that any of us would do that. So, and that way, we're not accused particularly of dabbling our fingers in provincial things either. Number two, the way the motion is worded allows the NSFM to speak with the province with the support of municipalities. They are hoping to engage respectfully and, but at the same time, be able to get the message across. And perhaps, by saying, more consultation with municipalities and impacting our autonomy, and then they would give examples such as what the CAO has said and what that could mean to municipalities. And I believe our president and the CAO of the NSFM have that. They've been having conversations already around this, and there are meetings again tomorrow. But it's just to send a strong message of support from their member units is what this letter would do. I think that's about all I can think of right now about it. That would certainly be what the intent was.
Okay, thank you, Warden. And seeing no one else left to speak, we'll go to the vote.
Walter's for.
Okay, the motion is passed unanimously. And I'll turn it back to you, Warden.
Thank you. Okay. I think that finishes correspondence for decision tonight, an hour and 35 minutes into the meeting. All right, next item is second reading of bylaw P-800-2, an amendment to bylaw P-800, the civic addressing bylaw. Councillor Mitchell, I will turn it over to you.
Second reading bylaw P 800-2, amendment to bylaw P-800, civic addressing bylaw. Council previously gave first reading to this bylaw in December 2024, but requested additional information which were provided to Planning Advisory Committee at their meeting on January 21, 2025. Council gave first reading at the January 2025 council meeting and can now proceed with second reading. I move that council give second reading to the proposed bylaw P-800-2 and amendment to bylaw P-800, civic addressing bylaw. As chair of Planning Advisory Committee, I so move.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
We'll go to the vote.
You're next.
And the motion has passed unanimously. Next on our agenda is second reading of bylaw F-400-10, an amendment to bylaw F-400, the tax exemption bylaw. Councillor Gordon Cole.
Regular meeting of council, February 26, 2025. Second reading bylaw F-400-10, an amendment to bylaw F-400 tax exemption bylaw. Council gave first reading at the January 2025 council meeting and can now proceed with second reading. Move that council give second reading to the proposed bylaw F-400-10, an amendment to bylaw F-400 tax exemption bylaw, and be amended to reflect the following changes. Add property number 010788852, Tots Academy Child Care Society, to Schedule B. Remove property number 0008887, Anglican Church of Canada, Christchurch, from Schedule A. Remove property number 105600985, Corridor Community Option Society. Update addresses, property number 105600977, Corridor Community Option Society to 201 Park Road. Property number 078400764, Hants North Food Bank to 7070 Highway 236. As Chair of the Corporate and Residential Services Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion to the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Next on our agenda, we will turn it over to Adam for information on the Highway 214 power pole easement.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So in front of you tonight, this, as council may recall, this was on your committee agenda, and then it was shifted here just really due to the timing of your day. So in front of you, you have a request to provide an easement and the location. If staff could just scroll down slightly, there's a map in there I would like to point your attention to. And really, this is next to Carmy's Daycare. The development's across the street. It's the apartment building that's going up. There's the commercial building right next to it. That's already been constructed. It actually has a Nova Scotia Health sign on the front right now that it looks like it's been leased out to. And where the star is there on the map is the municipal land. If you recall, you have 50 acres there for future business park development. And in the front, they're really looking to put some space for power to go across to their property. And in front of you tonight really is the request for an easement. It isn't to provide the CAO the direction for an easement. And I guess the only other thing I would say with this is we have looked at our long-term planning for the business park, and at this time we've consulted with our internal team with economic business development and engineering. We actually moved the location over slightly from where they originally proposed, so our best guess is that it shouldn't interfere with our long-term plans. It is kind of tight there. So tonight in front of you, we're suggesting that you give the CAO direction to enter into this lease, and really the lease is actually with Bell Canada is really who the lease is being granted to, but it's for the purpose of that development. And then other services can go off. I've been saying power, but other services can go off of this power pole. So happy to answer any questions. The report's been in front of you. You've had a chance to read it, and looking for your direction. Thank you.
I would just remind council that this was not discussed at Corporate Residential Services, so that the recommended motion would not need to say move that Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommend to council. It would simply be that council authorize the CAO. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff, is the municipality being compensated in any way for this easement?
Through you, Madam Warden, no, we haven't. We aren't recommending compensation at this point. We could look at administrative costs. It isn't something we have in policy, and it is part of our future planning. If you wanted to kind of talk about costing, I would suggest we go on camera to have that conversation. But it would be, we would suggest it would be to cover kind of that administrative costs.
Well, I
associated
just
with it.
know when Bell goes to get easements across private citizens' property, there's compensation, and I'm just wondering why they haven't offered any to us.
We haven't put this in front of you but happy to. I'm just looking at the CAO if she would like me to say a number out loud. I think we would look at that $1,100 range was kind of internally where we were based on the kind of administrative processing and some compensation for that. You know, you're granting an easement in perpetuity.
Exactly, because my concern is no problem granting the easement, no problem doing that. If it comes down to it, years from now when we go to develop and we have to move that pole and stuff, we're going to incur that cost. And I would like to see that, you know, if there is some monetary way to get some from Bell, to have that enough to be, if we do have to move that service to fit our needs and still provide that easement for them to cross, because they're not going to move it for free in the future. So I just want to make sure that we, you know, can in some ways try and cover ourselves if that's needed. And like I say, it's not going to be a large number. We're not talking thousands of dollars here. So it's just something that, you know, it all adds up at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay, you have a recommended motion in front of you, council. Is someone prepared to make the motion? Don't all jump at once, folks. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I recommend that council authorize the CAO to enter in an easement agreement of power and telecommunications services over a portion of PID 45085289 to support Riverstone 214 Limited Development on Highway 214 Elmsdale. I so move.
We have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, that brings us to committee reports. And we will start with the Accessibility Advisory Committee report. Councillor Tingley. Is Councillor Tingley able to make the report virtually? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The committee held its meeting on February 10th, 2025 at the Lloyd E. Matheson Center. The following items were discussed at the meeting. Number one, review of survey responses. As part of the review of the accessibility plan, the public were invited to complete a survey which asked them to tell us about any accessibility barriers they have identified. The survey was available on the municipal website, and paper copies were available in some of the municipal building locations. As of February 25th, 47 survey responses were received. The committee discussed the responses received and how the barriers identified could be addressed in an updated accessibility plan. Many of the comments received were already addressed in the current accessibility plan. Two, reviewing the accessibility plan report card. The manager of planning summarized the accessibility monitoring report card and what action items in the plan could be or should be kept in the updated accessibility plan. Some of the action items have been completed and do not need to be added as an action item in the amended plan. Number three, additional questions and comments. The committee discussed the municipal playground map, comfort centers, access to committee and council live stream, the East Hants Community Rider, an accessibility resource hub, and the ongoing accessibility audits. As chair of the committee, I so move the adoption of this report.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, we'll go to the Corporate and Residential Services Committee report. Councillor Garden Cole.
Okay. The committee held budget meetings on January 30th, 2025, February 6th, 2025, February 11th, 2025, February 13th, 2025, and its regular meeting on February 18th, 2025. And the following motions are coming forward as a result of those meetings. Number one, Belknap Playground. An old unsafe playground structure in Belknap was removed due to safety concerns. There is community interest to have a new structure installed as a replacement. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council request options and costs associated to a new playground in Belknap, replacing the one that was removed, for study this year, 2025-26, and for an install next year, 2026-2027. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? We will go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Community Partnership Fund 2025-2026. Staff have reviewed annual submissions from the 7 organizations that received the CPF in 24-25. These organizations continue to meet grant objectives and submission requirements. The organizations in this funding program are supporting our residents by offering opportunities and resources and by helping make East Hants a place people want to live. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that Council approve the list of recommended Community Partnership Fund organizations to be included in the draft 2025-26 budget and grants to be dispersed following final budget approval. Corridor Community Options for Adults, $15,000. East Hants Community Rider, $50,000. East Hants Family Resource Center, $20,000. East Hants Historical Society, $20,000. East Hants Sports Heritage Society, $5,000. East Hants Youth Links, $8,000. Kids Action, Annapolis Valley Hants Community Action Program, $10,000. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
General Government Grants 2025-26. As per the Municipal Grant Policy Program policy, the general government grant requires a motion of council to approve the budgeted general government grant recipients. The purpose of the policy is to provide guidelines for the awarding of grants to nonprofit organizations who apply to the municipality for financial assistance. Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that pending appropriate documentation is received and the passing of 2025-26 budget, Council approve the following general government grants for disbursement in 2025-26. Safe grad activities for any eligible East Hants students, $7,000. Remembering Canada's Heroes, $1,000. Hants County Exhibition, $500. Dr. Snow Bursaries, $3,000. East Hants Food Bank's Christmas programs, Caring and Sharing, Hants North Food Bank, Shumalak, Indian Brook Food Bank, Uniac Wish Givers, Kids Action Angel Tree Program, Hants County Christmas Angels, $7,000. Coat Association, $2,000. Constable Heidi Stevenson Memorial Golf Tournament, RCMP, $1,000. Recycle Your Cycle, Rotary Club, $500. 4-H Sponsorships, $200. Braden Bannister Memorial, RCMP, HERH, $650. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. We need one more person to vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
2025-2026 to 2029-2030 5-year capital budget, including Sportsplex. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee completed review of the 5-year capital budget. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that the 5-year capital budget for the fiscal years 2025-26 to 2029-2030 as presented be approved and adopted effective April 1st, 2025. Administration is given approval to proceed with the previously approved capital projects and those in the approval sought sections, subject to any conditions limiting such projects in previous motions of council or in policies of council. Should time permit, staff are authorized to embark on projects in this capital budget that require long-term pre-planning prior to April 1st, 2025. Projects approved for further study are approved in principle only. Amounts identified as approved for further study cannot be expended prior to presentation for a full report to council for consideration or approval through a future capital budget process. Where time permits, staff are given approval to proceed with approval sought projects from 2026-27 prior to April 1st, 2026. And that any projects approved in the 2024-25 capital budget not reflected as carried forward to the 2025-26 capital budget, but that are substantially committed at March 31st, 2025, shall be carried forward to 2025-26 based on the remaining budget at March 31st, 2025. And that this 5-year estimate of capital spending from the capital investment plan as required by the federal and provincial government funding agreements, and that the water utility sections of this budget are permitted to stand alone as the East Hants Water Utility Capital Budget as required by the Nova Scotia Utility Board and Review Board. And that staff be given authority to alter the sources of funding where necessary, but in no case shall the amounts to be debentured increase without prior approval of council. and that council seek ministerial approval for a temporary borrowing resolution for any amounts in this capital budget under the debenture debt category of funding, and that pre-approval to borrow amounts in this capital budget under the debenture debt category of funding for a term not to exceed 25 years at a rate not to exceed 6.5%. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Questions been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
2025-26 discussion of budget wrap-up items, 2025-26 operating budget. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee completed review of the operating budget. The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends to Council to approve the draft 2025-26 operating budget amended as follows. Proposed 2025-26 operating budget adjustments, general tax rate budget adjustments, and everything listed in the table below. Urban service rate budget adjustments, and everything listed in the table below. And that the following tax rates be set by council for the 2025-26 fiscal year. Final tax rates 2025-26, and everything listed in the table below. And that the mandatory provincial funding rate will summarize the cost of education and regional library to be charged in all taxable assessment, commercial, residential, and resource. And that the RCMP services to be charged in all taxable assessment, commercial, residential, and resource. And that for provincial reporting purposes, the general residential resource tax rate will be 0.795, and the commercial tax rate will be $2.57. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Merriam. To the motion, Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Well, after last budget meeting, I went home and tried to reflect everything in my mind, and I started realizing that I didn't ever expect that the last budget meeting was last meeting, and I think we rushed things more than usual. I look at the new assessment we got this year, and I found that we have over 9% in residential and 13-point-something% new assessment and extra assessment in commercial, and we only could manage to drop the residentials by half a cent. I think we should have found some more money to drop the residential. We got 9% increase. I think we found everything that we're gonna spend, but we didn't even try to look at something that where we could save like probably a couple $100,000 to drop the rate by another cent. And every year we got loads of surplus that we never seen in the budget time. So I am not gonna be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. My biggest thing is I feel that, we did seem to, that last budget meeting did seem to end kind of abruptly, even though it was a wrap-up, but we did quite a lot in that last budget meeting. The thing for me is, it goes back to the commercial rate. We've reduced it the same amount as we've reduced the residential rate by about 6 cents over the last number of years, but when you're talking 6 cents on 250 and 6 cents on 80, the percentages of that are way out of whack, right? We haven't reduced it by the same percentage, right? And the fact that at this point, it would seem not to make a huge fiscal impact on our operational budget. I just think we missed an opportunity to send a good message to our business community, and I've been hearing from them since then of their displeasure of that. So it's really just disappointing that maybe we didn't dig in a little deeper. Thank you.
Next up is Councillor Rhino, followed by Councillor Teemler. Go ahead, Councillor Rhino. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It's no surprise I will not be supporting this budget, but it won't be on the fact that, as Councillor Perry mentioned, around the commercial rate. I think it was very fair. We've dropped that for the last number of years, and we've shown great faith in by doing so with regard. Mine is around the residential rate. And again, yes, we can go out and we can say, yeah, we dropped the rate 5 cents, no problem. Oh, yeah, and that's the truth. But in nowhere does it match the amount the assessments went up. So people will be paying a lot more. I thought we could have dug in, we could have found more somewhere to try to help people out with regard to that. There's a lot of suffering out there, there's a lot of hardship out there, they're just scraping to meet their payments, property tax payments. There's just so much going on in the world. And really, I've sat here this is the 28th budget, and it just seems to go quicker and quicker and quicker every year. You know, I can remember this sometimes went to June, and at least, very least, into April. But now it seems to be, and it's over. And I think if we dug deep enough, we may have lowered that rate even further. So for that, I will not be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Tingley.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly appreciate the other councillors' views on this, but my view is this process did not go too fast. The budget information was very well outlined by staff. We had lots of time to review it before we met, and then we were walked through it. And we actually have already made a decision, and we're just going through the same decision again here now. I won't change my decision. I'll be in support of this time as well. I certainly would love to give residents and businesses a further break, but I think we're very fortunate to be able to even hold the rate and for the commercial and the slight lowering of the rate for residential. We're going to be facing some major expenses in this municipality, and we're living in pretty uncertain economic times. We don't know what's ahead over the next year or two for sure, other than it's going to be uncertainty. So for all those reasons, I'd love to be able to say, yes, let's lower the rate, but I'm going to support the motion. That's it.
Any further discussion? Question's been called, we'll go to the vote. So the motion is passed by a vote of 8-3, with Councillor Musa, Councillor Rhino, and Councillor Perry voting nay. Back to you, Councillor Garden-Cole.
Loan program update, well and septic, and PACE. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee received an update on the status of these two financial loan programs that are currently running as pilot programs. The committee supports continuation of the programs and an increase to funding. Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that Council direct staff to continue with the PACE loan program under bylaw 10-500 with administration by the Clean Foundation, with the maximum program funding amount to be increased to $250,000 and the maximum financing amount per household is to be increased to $25,000. 2, extend the well and septic loan pilot program under bylaw A200 with the maximum program funding amount to be increased to $400,000. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. Someone has not voted, and the motion has passed unanimously.
Council Climate Workshop Request. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee received a report highlighting the Municipal Climate Change Action Plan, MCCAP, update project that is proposed in the 2025-26 Sustainability Work Plan. A comprehensive engagement strategy is a key component to the MCCAP project, including engagement with council, staff, and the community. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council to direct staff to schedule a climate engagement workshop with Council in support of the Municipal Climate Change Action Plan update for the April Executive Committee extension date, April 17, 2025. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
As Chair of the Committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. That brings us to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Committee held its regular meeting on February the 18th, 2025 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Skating Pond, Belknap Avenue and Garden Road. For many years, the property at the corner of Belknap Avenue and Garden Road was historically maintained and operated as a recreational space. That included a public skating pond by Elmsdale and District Recreation Association. The organization is no longer in operation and was struck off the Registry of Joint Stocks in January 2007. Staff were previously directed to investigate this property and provided an update report outlining the operations, risk and liability and considerations. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend to Council that Council direct the CAO to not enter into an agreement to take ownership of operations of PID 453-96785, and that the operations and maintenance of the public skating ponds as a level of service is not offered by the municipality at this time. As Chair of the Committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Madam Warden, as Chair of the Committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. All those in favor? Contrary, motion is carried. That brings us to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Mitchell.
The committee held its regular meeting on February 18, 2025 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Number 1, UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, groundwater. As part of the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, planning staff have engaged Earth Water Concepts, Inc. to complete a groundwater study of the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy area. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Council authorize staff to include the recommendation outlined in the UNIAC groundwater report in the draft UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy report. Number 2, UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Motion C24-443.
Now, this is a separate, the first was a separate motion, Counselor. The first recommendation.
Okay. As Chair of the Committee, I move that. It's not
Seconded
written.
by Counselor Musa. Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Motion C24-443. As part of this UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, East End's Council directed planning staff to create a new zone that would allow commercial residential development in an identified area along Highway 1. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Council authorize staff to include the new Mount Uniac mixed-use center overlay designation zone outlined in the Uniac Secondary Planning Strategy Motion C24 bracket 443 report be included in the draft unit secondary planning strategy report stretching from the two entrances on Eder Road, and authorize staff to include the new Mount Uniac Comprehensive Development District designation and zone outlined in the Uniac Secondary Planning Strategy Motion C24-443 report be included in the draft Uniac Secondary Planning Strategy report. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Single access option report. In July 2024, a staff report was presented to PAC that provided a review regarding the 100 lot limit on a single access, a jurisdictional scan, and provided PAC options to council on the number of lots and or dwelling units that may be permitted on a single access. Staff have developed a method of determining instances where it may be acceptable to allow for over 100 lots to be created on a single access. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council authorize staff consult through Fire Advisory Committee or the East End Fire Service that service that development area for input on fire services in local areas regarding the department's comfort level and concerns regarding developments in their service area, and ask for feedback based on what they see in their own service area. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second it.
Seconded by, I didn't hear who, so, okay, Counselor Dixon. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Someone has not voted.
Councilor Perry's out.
Ah, okay. The motion is passed unanimously by all those present at the time.
The Planning Advisory Committee also recommends that council authorize staff send a letter to Provincial Public Works Department and copy MLAs and the Premier asking for reconsideration on performing maintenance on K-class roads or other in case they are required to be accessible for emergency access. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
The Planning Advisory Committee also recommends that staff be authorized to review the single access road discussion and come back to committee with any suggestions on amendments to the bylaw that they may have, if any, that they feel would perhaps reflect on what was considered the original intent of this when first brought into force approximately 15 years ago. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously by all those present for the discussion.
Number 4, PLN 24-002, Edward Hunter, MPS and LUB amendments. The municipality has received an application from Edward Hunter to redesignate and rezone a property in Upper 9 Mile River from the agricultural reserve, AR zone, and designate the rural use, RU zone, and designation. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give first reading to consider a proposal for PID 45189-206 to change from agricultural reserve zone and designation to rural use zone and designation, and for the purpose of enabling a public hearing, and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? No, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed by a vote of 10-1, with Deputy Warden McPhee voting nay.
Number 5, PLN 24-013 Central Tire Development Agreement Application. An application was submitted by Philip Higgs on behalf of Dennis Penner and Clinton Penner of Central Tire, requesting to enter a development agreement for transportation and warehousing use in rural use north RU2 zone. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give initial consideration to entering a development agreement for a transportation and warehousing building located on property identified as PID 451-48996, Highway 215, East Knoll, for the purpose of enabling a public hearing, and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Rhino. Is there any discussion on the motion? None, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Number 6, PLN 24-015, Clayton Development Limited Development Agreement Application. The municipality received an application from Clayton Development Limited for an amendment to their development agreement, which was approved in 2020. The Planning Advisory Committee directed staff to go back to the developer for additional discussion to be considered again at a further PAC meeting. No recommendations at this time. Number 7, mini homes as accessory dwelling units. In June of 2024, East Hants Municipal Council passed a motion directing staff to explore the possibility of permitting small mini home dwellings as accessory dwelling units. The report outlines the current regulations for accessory dwelling units and proposed changes to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to allow mini homes to be used as accessory dwelling units. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give first reading to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to permit small mini homes as accessory dwelling units for the purpose of enabling a public hearing, and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. That brings us to the Police Advisory Committee report, and over to you, Councillor Rhino. Try again.
Thank you. Good morning. The committee held its regular meeting on February 18, 2025 in council chambers. No motions came forward as a result of the meeting, but I'll bring you up to date on what happened. Oath of office, Form 4 for council members. All councilors repeated the oath of office in unison, signed the oath document, and returned to the assistant municipal clerk for the record, with the exception of Councilors Tingley, Musa, and Perry, who will complete their oaths at the next police advisory meeting. Then we moved on to Department of Justice Training. The remaining portions of the Department of Justice Training were presented by Danielle Desjardins, RCMP Liaison, Charcy Marchand, Director of Public Safety and Policing, both with the Department of Justice. Questions from members of the committee were addressed by the presenters. And then, of course, we had the RCMP quarterly report. The RCMP presented their quarterly report, which included follow-up to previous meetings, HR updates, operational updates, school resource updates, calls for service, and H Division tour, which will be held on March 28, 2025. Madam Warden, this brings me to the end of my committee report, and I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion is carried. That brings us to the warden's report. So I will turn the chair over to the deputy warden.
Do I think Warden?
And I have a little lengthier report than normal this month, but I'll start with February the 6th. Myself and some senior staff had a meeting with Chief Glasgow from Sabaganagady and some of her staff here at the municipal office, which was a very good, I think, outreach and good meeting. Also on February the 6th, I attended a meeting with some of our staff, the MLA, and some members of the development community around single access concerns. On February the 7th, I attended a celebration for Dorothy White, celebrating her 95th birthday, and was pleased to present a certificate on behalf of the municipality. Then on February the 19th, I presented a 90th birthday certificate, a bit late, to Vera Burns in honor of her 90th birthday, which she celebrated on January 20th. Also on February the 19th, I attended the East Hants Design Awards here at the Matheson Center. I'm very pleased to recognize these projects, which have certainly been important additions to our municipality. February 23rd, I attended the East Gore Brunch for the first time in a few months, and it was certainly a nice meal and nice to not have to cook for a change. On February the 26th, today, I attended a Zoom meeting with NSFM provincial correspondence and legislation. I'd also at this time like to share that the Rawdon District Volunteer Fire Department is holding their annual Winter Carnival this weekend, starting on Friday night with the ham and turkey roll and a large bake sale. On Saturday is Kids Day, and there will be assorted kids' activities and a cakewalk. And Saturday evening, a jamboree. That's an adult event because there will be an open bar. And then on Sunday morning from, I believe it's 10 to 2, there's a brunch, and I encourage anyone who wants a really good brunch, come on out. Aside from that, I have had over the last month a couple of agricultural reserve things come forward, and have come to realize that in our legislation, there is wording that I believe has some unintended consequences for some folks. Now, what happens is if someone owns property and it is captured under the agricultural reserve, they're bound by all the terms of that zone as to what they can and cannot do. Now, in many cases, if they want to put an addition on their home or add an accessory dwelling unit, that's fine if it's farm-related or a farm dwelling. But what happens is if the property that's owned is not what we consider a bona fide farm, but these folks are still maintaining that property and keeping the fields cleared and everything, so it's still available for agricultural use. And in many cases, there's a neighboring farmer or someone who's taking the hay off it and making use of it. But because they're not operating a bona fide farm, if they want to build a piece on their home, they can't do it. Well, they can't go beyond 25% of the original square footage of their home. The latest one I've come across is a property that through various road issues through the year, the property sits right on the side of a dirt road. And I mean right on the side of the road. There's no ditch, no nothing between the house and the road. And as a matter of fact, the Public Works or Department of Transportation property line runs through their living room. And so this family would like to move their home back away from the road and put it on a new foundation. And they have 4 children. They would also like to add a 20 by 23 addition to the home while they're moving it. Unfortunately, because they do not meet the definition of a bona fide farm, we have no way of granting a permit for them to do this. And I don't ever think that was the intent of our agricultural reserve zone. And so I've had several conversations with the director, and there was no way around it. This person does own land that's zoned rural use, but to move the house there is a considerable more distance to move it, lose the ability to perhaps use the existing sewer system, the existing well. It's just not feasible to do that. So I think that in this day and age, if folks own agricultural land, whether or not, we zoned it agricultural, whether or not they're bona fide farmers or not. And I think folks that have homes on this land should have the ability to build a piece on. Or in the strange circumstance that the house has to be moved, we should be able to give them a permit to allow them to do that without them spending thousands of dollars on a development agreement or going through a whole rezoning circumstance. So in consultation with staff, I'm going to make the following motion. I move that staff be directed to prepare text amendments to the land use bylaw that would treat existing non-farm dwellings within the agricultural reserve zone as lawfully existing uses, to enable these homes to be expanded, moved, and add accessory dwelling units without the restrictions placed on them as a result of being in the AR zone.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I'm in full support of the motion. I'm just wondering if any of these things have been discussed at the Agricultural Committee and got their way in to make sure that they understand the intent behind this as it does affect the areas that they overlook and advise us on.
I can say that this wouldn't have been done in this case. The property under consideration, the entire property is somewhere around 20 acres. I don't know what percentage of that is zoned AR. It's only a part of the property. They're not moving, the house is not moving onto any land that's.
I'm not talking
being-
about the specific case. I'm talking about, because the motion now affects all AR zoned properties.
It
So
does,
If that was discussed at Agricultural Committee and this has their support.
It was not, and this, I'll be completely honest, this is holding folks up from doing what they need to do already, and this simply allows folks to, it doesn't allow them to take land out of agricultural protection, so I don't really see the need. It just allows people to build a piece on their home or add an accessory home for a parent or just like anybody else. And anyway, I am hoping that this motion will pass, and then there will be a possibility that it'll work its way through the system in time that they might be able to proceed sometime this summer.
That's all I have, Deputy Warden.
That's everything, Councillor Perry?
Councillor Tingley would like to speak.
Okay, Councillor Tingley?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I want to support the motion as well, but I would prefer to not restrict staff's, what staff is going to come back to us with. I would just like to get their opinion on their recommendations on this.
But this motion was drafted by staff for me to make.
Oh, it was, okay. Then I'm full support of the motion then.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tingley. Nobody else left to speak? I was wondering, Warden, if you would reread the motion so everyone's sure.
I move that staff be directed to prepare text amendments to the land use bylaw that would treat existing non-farm dwellings within the agricultural reserve zone as lawfully existing uses, to enable these homes to be expanded, moved, and add accessory dwelling units without the restrictions placed on them as a result of being in the AR zone. And just for a little bit of clarification, it's just giving homes that are on farms that are not operating bona fide farms the same abilities as farm homes on the farms already have in the agricultural zone.
Thank you, Warden. Councillor Perry,
No, Musa.
or Musa, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Isn't that how always we do if we have something on, if we change a zone, everybody who have a house on that zone is an existing use?
We're not changing a zone.
No, I mean, we changed the requirement on the agriculture reserve zone. We change it in a different planning, like.
This would just mean that any house on agricultural reserve land, whether or not that land is a bona fide farm operation or not, would be entitled to build a piece on or have an accessory dwelling unit, or in this case, be moved to a new foundation.
Okay, but didn't you say that an existing use? And
Any home that exists today on land that's, as it is now, if you own a home and the land that your home is on is zoned agricultural reserve, if you are considered a bona fide farm, then you have the right to build a piece on your home, have an accessory dwelling, whatever. But if the land that you own is zoned agricultural and you're not operating what's considered to be a bona fide farm, even though you are probably keeping the fields up and doing everything you have to do, you don't have the right to expand your home any more than 25% or have an accessory dwelling unit. And this just simply would be to change the text of the bylaw to say that any homes who are on agricultural land currently, whether it's a bona fide farm or not, have the right to do these things. They're not being treated differently.
Okay, I understand now. But this is in your area, right?
This is, no, I don't, well, I do have agricultural zoning in part of my area, yes.
So
This
in which
is
area is this one? Like,
anywhere that agricultural zoning is in effect.
that specific case, in which area is it?
This one? This
Yeah.
is in East Gore in my area.
Yeah, but my point is, before the rural planning, we didn't have any zoning there, right?
No, this zoning, East Gore has been zoned. East Gore is part of the zoned area, has been forever.
Before the rural?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's what put me off guard, like.
Yes,
Because we didn't have any zoning there, so it's.
But we did there. The zoning extended beyond 9 Mile River, Upper 9 Mile River, out through
okay.
East Gore and Gore.
Okay, thank you. No, I am supportive of the motion. Thank you.
That's everything, councillors? Good, thank you. Seeing no one else to vote, or to speak, we'll go to the vote.
Oh, okay, yeah, count 4.
Oh, it's passed unanimously.
Okay, well, I think, folks, let me refer to my notes. Told you it was longer than usual tonight. But I believe that concludes my report.
Turn the chair back to you, Warden.
Okay, we'll now go to business from councilors, and I will start with Councillor Musa this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had one question for Debbie, but she's not here, so I don't know if John or the CEO is familiar with the complaint from Cottage Country about the marina or whatever. Are you familiar with it, John?
Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, so within the Cottage Country Development Agreement at Long Lake, there's one public park, and then there are also several lake access points that are part of the condo corporation, so they're only for their members. And the way the development agreement is written, it restricts the use of those to kayaks, canoes. It's meant to be sort of low impact, both for the environment and for surrounding landowners that own homes near those lake access points. So the person that's reached out to us owns one of the condo units, but not on the lake. So they use one of these lake access points. And they're hoping to be able to leave their boat in all summer. Not really able to do that because there's not enough mooring space down there. The developer actually has applied for an amendment to the development agreement to permit a marina there. So right now, you can't do that because a marina is not permitted. And he is proposing to, I think, have 60 slips so it'd be quite a large marina. So that would solve her problem. But the applicant has asked that be put on hold because I think he's been in consultation with some of the other condo owners in the area, especially some of the ones that live near the access point, who would be more concerned about all that extra activity and parking and so on. So I'm not sure where that application is going to go, if he's going to want us to reactivate it or what, but it's an issue. There's no easy fix because a marina is not permitted right now on the lake. I don't know if that explains it as well as you need.
It's good explanation, but I couldn't picture it yet, so. Okay, I'll probably, it's better to discuss it with you, just not holding council for. Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor Musa?
No, thank you.
Counselor Perry?
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just a few things happened. Met with the fire department during the budget process, had some good talks with them about renewal of equipment and moving forward with some capital projects they're working on. Met with the Bobrovsky Trails group out of the Cottage Country Development. They're looking to move towards having their grand opening. They have signage and stuff that's currently in to be approved by the municipality, and it looks like they're putting lots of good effort in, and they're gonna have a very nice set of walking trails there. Again, there was a professional wrestling was at the Uniac Fire Hall on the 23rd. It was another sellout. It was great to see all the children out there. They had a great time. The group of young men and women that do the wrestling and the promoter have really been engaging, getting into the community, getting to know people, stopping at local businesses, things like that. They want it to be a reoccurring thing, which is good to see because it's been some good entertainment for a lot of people in the area. I had a meeting with the MLA, Brad Johns for Sackville Uniac, talking about issues at the interchange where Highway 101 comes off and meets the number one, and a few other things that they're just getting back underneath their feet and finding out what's going on. Session's in now, so the budget's being presented, so hopefully we'll have some more discussions leading to some better things in the future. I do have one motion to make tonight, and it's regard to my motion that I made before regarding the flagpoles at the Mount Uniacke Legion. And it's just to change the funding source. So I move that $15,000 for 2 flagpoles for the Mount Uniacke, be approved from the Mount Uniacke Rec Fund. Contingent 1 flagpole be the municipal flag and 1 flagpole be for the Mi'kmaq Grand Council flag to align with the move for Truth and Reconciliation instead of using CCCB funding. I so move.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
And last,
Oh, sorry, you wanted to speak to that?
Oh, sorry, I was just gearing up for too keen.
and last but not least, this is the end of Black History Month, and it's definitely been great to see. I was into the library, I've been into the schools, I've been in some other places around the community, and the displays and some of the things that were being shared there about the history here in Nova Scotia was great to see. Thank you.
Counselor Merriam.
Great, thank you. Yes, so it's been a busy last few weeks. I think we'd all agree, but that is what we're here for. Some of the things that I've been up to, February 4th, I attended a public information meeting, as did a number of other counselors. It was very well attended. Of course, we've had a number of budget meetings, as discussed earlier over the past few weeks. Last week, February 19th, I attended the East Hants Design Awards, and that was a really nice event. My understanding it's every 3 years, but it's a nice recognition of and thank you to developers, and I was very impressed, and as well dealing with various constituency issues. So I'd like to make a motion tonight regarding Milford sidewalks generated by community interest. I move that staff provide a cost update based on modern design specs and current pricing for the sidewalk extension in Milford project identified as project 18-010. This extends the sidewalk in front of the Milford Lions Club Park and community cemetery for a potential build in 26-27. Thank you.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I wasn't sitting in his seat, he was virtual, so I almost missed Counselor Tingley. I'm going to go to you now, Counselor Tingley.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Invisible, but I'm still here. On February 5th, I attended a NSFM Group Insurance Committee meeting. We have these meetings probably 4 to 6 times a year to discuss the contract between NSFM and the two main brokers that the municipalities deal with, and to agree to monthly communication and quarterly webinars that are put on about insurance and risk management if people from the municipality want to attend. February 10th, attended the East Hants Accessibility Committee meeting, which was already reported on. Also on February 10th, attended a productive meeting with the Department of Municipal, actually this was training with the Department of Municipal Affairs, webinar on anti-racism planning. February 13th, attended a meeting with Lance Fire along with Adam Clarkson and Council Merriam. February 24th, attended FCM webinar training titled Municipal Flood Resilience Action, and I've sent along an email and with some other information to councillors on that, mainly just because I'm hoping at some point we're going to get to the point where we'll do a flood risk mitigation plan, but I'm not making any motions on that or anything tonight. I note in the directors meeting minutes of February 24th that 5 municipal staff attended the Municipal Flood Resilience Action webinar at FCM the week before I did, which was nice to see. What else? Received the typical number of inquiries from constituents in February, nothing extraordinary. Received several calls where I had to reach out to staff, and as usual, they were very helpful. Just a little shout out to Calvin Bayard. I had called him on a situation, and he was very helpful with it. And I forget the employee's first name, but his last name is Greenham. Worked in the infrastructure department, and he was also very helpful with another situation. That's about all I have to report. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Tingley. Moving along, I will go to Deputy Warden McPhee.
Thank you, Warden. Yes, a few things to report. We had the meeting of the Municipal Housing Working Group this past Monday. We had some good information on the housing issues and needs in East Hants, and we're closing in on having a report soon. Of course, we attended budget meetings. We did public information meeting on the 4th of February. Shubenacadie Hay Days, planning has begun on that, and as usual, like all groups, we need volunteers. And just like to comment on the McGinnis Trail, Havenwood Road. As people know, that's being extended, and I see the right-of-way has been blazed, and you can see where our municipality's lots marked out, and it's saving the nicest section of the trail, I think. So it doesn't look like it'll have a horrible or much of an impact really on the trail. So I think people will be able to continue enjoying it. That's everything for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Hebb.
Thank you, Warden. February 8th, attended the celebration for Barb McLeod, Nom River, her 80th birthday, submitted a certificate for her. On the 10th, I attended the Nima River Trails at AGM, and they reported that they've had over 9,000 visits there over last year. Not an exact figure, but they know it was well over 9, so very good attendance there. Attended the Hants Design Awards on February 19th, and also attended the brunch in East Gore on February the 23rd, and I know I gained a few pounds there. I'm going to put forth a motion, and it's to do with the planning review coming up next year. And just a little bit of background on it is we have a number of subdivisions, and people in the subdivisions most of them are very proud of how they look and the aesthetics that's there. And you know, you have a nice house there, and the landscaping is done, the paved driveway, and your buildings there is all aesthetic. And if you stop and put a mini home up in there, or a container designed home for an accessory dwelling, it certainly takes away with the aesthetics of the look of that subdivision. And I know some people in them subdivisions would not appreciate that. So I'm going to move to have staff investigate not permitting mini homes and container homes to be used for accessory dwellings in subdivisions in the growth management area to be part of the next planning review. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? And just for clarity, this is to have this brought forward in the next plan review. Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the the motion has passed unanimously. Anything further, Counselor Head?
No, that's it. Thank you, Warden.
Counselor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I, like every other councillors, have attended the council executive meetings and all the budget meetings. On February the 10th, I attended the accessibility advisory meeting. On the 19th, I as well attended the East Hants Design Awards, and like previously stated, it was well presented, and I think the presentations, everything was greatly appreciated. I still attend the CCOA financial meetings for the new construction. And the only issue I really had in the last month, Jesse, is probably people complaining about snow and ice on the roads, and I've been in contact with the Department of Public Works and Chinook Central School Board, and not getting a lot of satisfaction, so hopefully maybe over the time this year, we can get some more communication and maybe get some spark behind them. Most of it is not plowing, not sanding, and not having a turning for the school buses at the end of Thomas Street. I know you're probably aware of these. But at least I will give credit, Chinook School Board did call me back, and since that call back, things got better. So that's all I have. Thank you, Warden. Madam Warden.
Thank you. Counselor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I attended the town hall meeting in Enfield with MP Cody Blois and the Liberal leader candidate Mark Kearney. On February the 4th, I attended the public information meetings here, 3 applications, 2 Lance and 1 on the mini homes. February the 5th, we had the Fire Hall Business Meeting, 2 budget meetings on the 11th and 13th of February. I missed the design awards because we had a Fire Hall audit, and I'm on the audit committee on the 19th. Information going forward, the Equity and Community Wellness Committee with the NSFM will be meeting on the 20th of March, and the agenda deals with the basic income guarantee, and we have 2 presenters lined up, and we possibly will have a 3rd one dealing with that topic. Want to thank the libraries for the information provided to residents on Black History Month. I noticed that this morning on one of the sports channels, I'm not sure which one, that Uncle Willie and some of the other African athletes were, I guess, acknowledged, and I always look back on his number 22 that he wore with the Boston Bruins, and one of those things you get proud of, and every time he's on, it makes me very moving. With the weather issues coming, ground frozen, snow melt, rain, I'm hoping that we don't have any issues this week with flooding, but I'll monitor those and take any calls from my residents. If you drive around Elmsdale Enfield, you notice that there's a lot of construction going on, and there are shovels in the ground, so I'm looking forward to see how they all play out. And that's all, Madam Warden.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. A busy month in District 1. We had lots of meetings working through to come up with the next year's budget, which has just recently been approved. I attended a board meeting for CCOA. They are attempting, or they're planning on opening their new build, having a little bit of a setback with a water sprinkler failure, but they are working through it and hope to be opening as soon as possible. I also attended an E.H. Horn Preservation Society meeting. I recently attended the Municipal Housing Working Group meeting. Let me see. I've received numerous phone calls and emails about shortages of parking in the new developments in the area, and this problem always comes to light when there's snow on the ground and the roads need to be plowed. I think council really needs to take a look at the amount of parking per unit that we are requiring in East Hants right now. I feel that we would be better serving our residents and ourselves with the backlash of these issues if we were to look at that. I'm not making a motion for that right now, but I think we should be looking at that down the road. I would, however, like to bring up the topic of shoulders of the road in subdivisions not being plowed unless there's more snow coming, but typically the shoulders aren't included in the plowing. So where that becomes a problem is in the fact that as of last year, children have to walk to school within 1.6 kilometers of the school. So, for example, in from Alderney Drive over to White Estates where the school is, if the shoulders aren't plowed, you've got 4-year-olds potentially that have to walk to school. Now, I realize that there's reasons why they don't plow the shoulders, you know, the conditions and the cost and different reasons, but I would like to make a motion that staff look into the additional issues and cost of plowing the shoulders of subdivision roads within 1.6 kilometers of schools for the next plowing or winter season.
Seconded by Councillor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, just a comment. I had the notion that they didn't plow the shoulders because the snow would end up in the ditch, and which led to some flooding in Elmwood. So that's all I can share.
Any further discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Counselor.
Thank you. If I can just add to that, there are reasons for not plowing, but I just feel like we need to have another look at it, given the fact that with the new changes in the busing, we've got young children or any children walking to school, you know, within 1.6 kilometers. And if it's on a sidewalk, they're taken care of, or if it's on a main road where that's being plowed, but it's particularly problematic in subdivisions close to schools. Thank you.
I would just add it's problematic everywhere, but young children are forced to walk 1.6 kilometers to school on roads that, yeah, and this is perhaps at this time I won't, but I think perhaps we should revisit engaging the school board around that 1.6 kilometer distance, and maybe the way that the province of Newfoundland went would be the way to go, that every child that goes to school is entitled to ride a school bus, no matter where they live. Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. February the 5th, I presented a 80th birthday certificate to Mr. Jim Clooney of Selma. He was very appreciative of the certificate. On February 13th, I attended a funeral of a community member. February the 14th, I presented a 95th birthday certificate to Ms. Aline Cox of Knoll. And she was very appreciative of the certificate, and she's very, very active at 95. On February the 19th, I presented a 90th birthday certificate to Mr. Lauren Marilyn of Maitland, who was very appreciative as well. And the rest of that evening, I sat in on the Walton Shore Volunteer Fire Department meeting. And I would just like to say that the fire service in that area are in very good hands with the men and women who serve that. It's a very, very impressive department. And then on the February 22nd, this past the 16th, I missed that. I was to the Knoll Fire Department breakfast, another good turnout there as well. And on February the 22nd, I was at the Knoll Legion for their 40th birthday and presented their certificate for their services there. The Knoll Legion, well, being a haven for those who have and a monument for those who have served and enjoy, and everybody that enjoys the freedoms that we have today. It has become much more. It's become much more of a community hub hosting benefits, jamborees, and celebrations of all sorts. So the Knoll Legion is very strong. The volunteers are just as strong, if not stronger, and they really, really pull together there. The only other thing is I had a complaint from a resident with regard to accessory dwellings setbacks in the rural use 2 zone. And it was found out that from the rear property line to the back of the dwelling has to be a minimum of 11 meters. That is problematic in some when we're trying to do this to create more a living space. This one I'm talking about was they were wanting to put an elderly person in there, and they didn't want to lose any of their driveway. With the 11 meters, it was very hard on them, and I don't know if they're going to go through with it or not. So I'm going to try this. So I would move that staff bring back a report on changing the rear distance from the property line from 11 meters to 5 meters. And I'd like to, if I could, we could get that as soon as reasonably possible. So I would move that report be brought back on that.
In which zone, Counselor? The
RU2?
RU2?
RU2 zone.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Perry. To the motion, Counselor Musa? No. Any discussion on the motion? Go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously.
And I'd just like to say brunches at the Little White Hall on the Knoll Road will be starting this Sunday, so you're all invited out there to have a wonderful breakfast and camaraderie and friendship. So you're all invited. Thank you.
Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I have an item, if you allow me, like I forgot about it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, thank you. So I had many calls about the East Uniacke Road plowing this last few storms. I know it's provincial, but the province also take care of all our side roads. So you can imagine how the side roads were. If East Uniacke till today actually, till the ice build on that road has melted. So it wasn't done right. It was late and everything. So I'm willing to ask Jesse, how was our roads here, like the contractor that we use here? Because if the roads here are not built on ice, I don't like two standards in our municipality. We shouldn't go for the cheapest price. We should go for the best service for our resident because we are all paying the same price.
Through you, Madam Warden, I would say that all gravel roads were challenging right across the municipality, whether it was done by the municipal contractor or the province. I think gravel roads are kind of an asterisk based on the conditions. Everything else, our contractor was in compliance with our conditions. There was some delays due to some parking issues here and there, but other than that, it was pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with the conditions currently.
In Mount Uniacke, we probably have one or two gravel roads and the rest all paved. So if we have two standards in our municipality, I don't think that's right. And for the next option, the next contract, we should get the best contract for our, I understand we're going with the TIR, with the public work for some reasons, trade, but we shouldn't be trade on the safety of our residents. So I like to have the same standard for all the municipality on our roads.
Councillor Perry?
I'm just going to elaborate on that from Councillor Moose as well. Some of this was on the newest paved section of road in Mount Uniacke. It's like you were driving through potholes the entire way. There was 4 inches of solid ice and just holes all the way through. And this is a road that was paved last fall. So it's because it wasn't cleared and it took too long. And when you watch the plow tracker, as I get calls from residents all around, it just seems like over the last number of years, the servicing of the area has degraded as far as the time for the main trunks to be cleared. Even Highway 1 at 7:30 in the morning was full, and that's a main trunk that's supposed to be cleared first. And this has not been happening. And it's a safety concern. That's literally what it boils down to. And I would, if I care to guess, it's probably a personnel issue. They don't have enough people, just like bus drivers and plows. They always have the hiring out. But at the end of the day, it's something that needs to be addressed, because if you do look at the number of traffic that comes down the South Rawdon Road, travels along the number 1 out of East Uniacke, and from Upper Eridois, that is a large traffic area that has had some really, I would say, possible subpar servicing this winter season compared to the ones previous.
And if I could, I would add to that, it's not just those roads. 354 McCarty Road, I went through on Wednesday, 3 days after the last storm. It was similar. I didn't come back that way. It was not fit to drive on. And even on that day, Highway 14 in the lane going towards the cheese factory still had ice from the shoulder halfway to the center line. And it was just, pardon? All the way to Brooklyn. Yeah, all the way. Now, I'm just going to say that in my opinion, when we lost the salt shed in Rawdon, there was a degradation of service. And now this year, the highway garage in Rawdon is closed, so the trucks are not leaving from there or meeting from there anymore. I've been told by operators that that is impacting the actual time they spend. I won't get into details, but, you know, I'm in the chair, I don't make motions, but, you know, it might be in order if someone made a motion that we send a letter to Provincial Public Works asking them that, you know, if they could please ensure that they meet their own standards when plowing the roads in East Hants, because I don't believe they're doing it. Anyway, that's my rant. Councillor Musa.
I agree 100% with you, Madam Warden, but you're talking about provincial road and it's their responsibility. I'm not trying to cut, I'm talking about our roads that we contract to them and they're not doing the standard, our standard too. So that's my biggest point is, my biggest concern is we have provincial road that we're contracted to somebody, to public work, and they're not doing their own roads. So can you imagine our roads? They're terrible. So if they're gonna keep like that, I would like to see another option for us to do our road in the rural area, like especially for safety concern. Thank you.
Councillor Rhino.
Well, as well as you know, I do snow and ice control in my area, but I had a lot of complaints, and I've had them on the McCarthy Road from people in my district who travel that road. And when I contact them, what I'm being told it is staffing issue. Basically, it's a staffing issue, trying to train people, get them in those seats. It's a process, and so I just wanted to pass that along. It's not going to make this any better, but and when I contact them, that's what they're telling me is the staff issue.
That can, oh, Councillor Musa?
Probably if they have staffing issue, probably if we take some of that contract out their hand, they'll have enough staff to do their own roads, and we can do our own. So I would like to make a motion that staff write a letter to Public Work and explain to them that the conditions of the roads in the rural area or whatever, in the whole municipality, they were not acceptable and they should hold to their standards.
We have a seconder.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Perry. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Dixon.
I'd just like to make sure the letter is including the provincial roads and the, as well.
Yes.
It was, okay, thank you.
Are you ready for the question? We'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. All right, folks, that concludes business from councilors. I would now be looking for a motion to set the date and time of the next council meetings, March the 18th, 2025, regular meeting of council for policy and in camera, and March 26th, 2025, regular meeting of council. I don't know who was first. Moved by the deputy warden, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. I would be now looking for a motion of adjournment. Moved by Councillor Musa, seconded by Councillor Perry. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion is carried. We'll give staff a couple of minutes